Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Welcome to the series of lecture for ectoparasites. Ectoparasite lectures will be divided into 4 parts. This is to make sure that the topics are divided into smaller portions to facilitate better understanding of the subject matter. For all parts of the ectoparasite lecture, this is the general learning outcome. I expect you to list out the medically important ectoparasites. This list is provided for you in slide 4 in this part 1 series. From the ectoparasites, you need to understand which part of the body the ectoparasite infestation takes place. Third, what are the risk factors for human host to be exposed or to be infected by these ectoparasites? Fourth, how are these ectoparasites transmitted to human host? And fifth, which is a very important learning outcome, some of the parasites act as a vector that can transmit diseases. They may transmit viruses or bacteria that can do more harm to the human host. And lastly, you need to be able to understand the treatment and prevention of each ectoparasite. And again, I cannot stress out even anymore, all these learning outcomes would be expected of you for each part of the ectoparasite lecture. In this slide shows the definition of some of the words that you will come across in this series of lecture. The first word is arthropods. Arthropods are invertebrate animals with exoskeleton and segmented body and paired jointed appendages. In other words, the common arthropods that you'll come across are insects, arachnids, and crustaceans. The other word that you'll come across is the word ectoparasite. Now, ectoparasites are parasites that lives on or in the skin, but not within the huge body cavity. So the commonest type of parasites that you may comprehend would be the lice and the flea. However, there will be a few more ectoparasites that will be discussed in this lecture. The other word that you'll come across is the word infestation. Infestation means the presence of an unusually large number of parasites, insects or animals, in a place, typically so as to cause damage or diseases. Now, what is the difference between infestation and infection? An infestation is the complex organ, like a parasite or another insect, versus an infection is the invasion of microorganisms like the protozoa, the fungi, the bacteria, and viruses. In this slide, you'd see a list of arthropods of ectoparasites that are of medical importance. There are abundance of ectoparasites that can have an impact onto the human host. However, we will limit our discussion to these ectoparasites. The first group of ectoparasites is the lice. The first type of lice is the head lice, called the Pediculus humanis capitis. The second type of lice is the body lice, called the Pediculus humanis corporis. And the third type of lice is the Thyris pubis. It is also called the pubic lice. The next group of ectoparasites are the mites. There are 4 types of mites that you will be exposed to. The first being the Sarcoptes scabiei. The infestation of this mite can bring about a disease called the scabies. The second mite is Demodex follicarium. This is found on the skin of the face. It is associated with a severe acne form called acne rosacea. The third mite is called Leptotrobidum flechery. The significance of this mite is that it is a vector for a disease, for a bacteria which can cause scrub typhus. And the last type of mite is the dust mite, which can induce asthma. The other type of ectoparasites that you will be exposed to is the flea. Now there are three types of flea, the rat flea, the cat flea, and the shigo flea. The human flea will not be discussed in this lecture. The rat flea and the cat flea are vectors of diseases that can have a huge impact on the human life. The fourth type of ectoparasite is the bed bug. Although the bed bug is not a vector of disease, however, infestation of bed bug is very common and it is quite significant in human life. The fifth type of ectoparasites are the ticks. The two types of ticks that you will be exposed to, which is the soft tick and the hard tick. These two groups of ticks are vectors of bacteria that has significant impact on human life. Now, the last type of ectoparasite are the flies. The flies will be discussed in a separate lecture called myisis, and the significance of flies and myisis will be discussed there. There are three types of lice that you need to know for this series of lecture. The first is the head lice. It is called the Pediculus humanis capitis. It is the lice that you can find on the head, as the name may suggest. And the second type of lice is the body lice, called the Pediculus humanis corporis. This is a significant infestation of lice because it can harbor some bacteria and it can cause more harm than the infestation of the lice itself. And the third type of lice is Thyris pubis, also known as the pubic lice. All three types of lice, the head lice, the body lice, and the pubic lice, they are all blood-sucking ectoparasites. Of course, the head lice is found on the head. The body lice is found on the torso mostly, and the pubic lice is found at the pubic hair. All lice, the shape or the general morphology is dorso-ventrally flattened. So it's flat, like as you would cup your hand in this manner. The infestation of Pediculus humanis capitis, the head lice, and the infestation of Pediculus humanis corporis, which is the body lice, is called pediculosis. And the infestation of Thyris pubis or the pubic lice is called theriasis. Pediculosis is the infestation of the Pediculus humanis capitis, the head lice, or Pediculus humanis corporis, which is the body lice. Now, the diagram or the picture that you see here is a common pastime in some communities called the nitpicking. Nit refers to the egg of the lice. So nitpicking refers to the removal of the lice eggs. Here, what you see is also nitpicking in an animal situation. The animals carry out nitpicking in order to control the infestation of lice on their bodies. And of course, these animals would eat the lice that they find. Here you see the picture of two types of lice. Here in the top part you see the picture of the head lice, And here in the lower part of the slide is the picture of the body lice. These two types of lice, they have claw-like appendages. So the end of their legs, if you like to call them, it has what looks like claws. The function of these claws is for the lice to hold on to, if it's a hair lice, it will hold on to the hair shaft, and if it is a body lice, it will hold on to the fibers of the fabric. Both type of lice would feed on human blood. There are two websites that I have inserted here. Please go through the websites for you to better understand these ectoparasites. This slide compares and contrasts the head lice and the body lice. It is very important for you to go through all these for you to be able to compare and contrast between the head lice and the body lice. The most significant thing between these two ectoparasites is that the head lice just brings about a social stigmata, which means that a person may be embarrassed or may be ashamed for having or being seen having head lice. However, there are no other diseases linked to being infested with head lice. Unlike being infested with body lice, the body lice can carry or can harbor bacteria. Some of the bacteria is the Rickettsia bacteria, which can lead to typhus, or the Borrelia, which can lead to relapsing fever. So this is a very important and significant fact about the body lice. Now, both type of lice can be found throughout the world. However, the head lice is more common in younger children between the ages of 6 and 13. This is because this group of children are normally grouped together closely, especially in schools or in daycare centers, and therefore if one child is infested with head lice, it can easily be transmitted to other children within the vicinity. Now, body lice, on the other hand, is linked to poor living condition and poor hygiene. Now, body lice is known as, or is also called, the vagabond disease. What is vagabond? Vagabond means homeless communities. Okay. Now the hygiene factor is related, poor hygiene factor is related to body lice, but hygiene factor is independent of head lice. And strangely enough, head lice is not related to hair color, neither is it related to length of hair. How about transmission of body lice and head lice? Head lice is transmitted via direct head-to-head contact, and uncommonly it can also happen when a person shares clothing, headwears, or even bed and couches or carpets. For body lice, the transmission is also direct person-to-person contact, also by sharing fomites. Symptoms are pretty much the same. They both would be itchy, so the scalp will be itchy if a person infested with head lice, and if a person is infested with body lice, the body or the torso would be itchy. I would imagine to a certain extent both as well, the sleep will be severely disturbed. But in children, if sleep is disturbed, the child will be very irritant and very moody during the daytime. There are complications for these two types of lice. Both types of lice, you're going to be able to get some secondary bacterial infection. The most common or the most noted complication for head lice would be the Plica polonica or matted scalp. You will be able to see this later on in the picture in this lecture. And of course, for the body lice, because it is a vector of bacteria, so you're going to get louse-bound diseases. And of course, because of the poor hygiene condition, one may present with severe dermatitis. How do you detect, or what are the signs? Of course, you can see the eggs, the nymph, and the adults on the infested individual. So if it's the head lice, you can see it at the scalp, and if it is the body lice, generally you see them at the trunk, and you will also see a rash. Treatment for both of these lice infestation would be an anti-lice shampoo, and of course prevention would be avoid an index case, and in the case of body lice, to have good personal hygiene. The life cycle of both the head lice and the body lice are very similar, in that the eggs will hatch to release the first stage of nymph, and then it will undergo two further developments of nymph before it gets to the adult stage. A nymph is a stage of development whereby the shape of the lice is identical to that of the adult, however the size is smaller. In the next few slides, we'll be discussing about the head lice. This slide shows the general life cycle of the human head lice. As mentioned earlier, what you can see here is the life cycle of the head lice. It starts from the eggs, and then it will go through 3 stages of nymph development before it becomes an adult lice. The eggs are located at the hair shaft, very close to the scalp. It is very small, and it looks yellowish or whitish in color. Sometimes the eggs of the lice can be mistaken for dandruff. The eggs are normally found, or viable eggs are normally found up to 6 millimeters away from the scalp. Anything beyond 6 millimeters, the eggs are said to be non-viable or has hatched already. The nymph would then undergo tree molting to become an adult. At all stages of the nymph development and the adult lice, these stages would feed on the human blood. At any point, should these lice or falls off the human scalp, it would not be able to survive. Please read through the write-up of the life cycle, and this is taken from the CDC website. It takes 30 days from an egg to develop to become an adult, and one adult can survive for another 30 days. Typically, there are about 10 to 20 adults in one infestation. In this slide, you see 3 different pictures of Pediculus humanis capitis taken from various websites. For the purpose of your exams, you don't need to differentiate whether they are male or female Pediculus humanis. However, you have to tell me in your exams the difference between the Pediculus humanis and the Thyrus pubis. This slide shows the difference between the male and the female Pediculus humanis capitis. Again, for the purpose of your exams, you don't need to differentiate between male and female Pediculus humanis, but you need to tell me if they are Pediculus humanis or Thyrus pubis. This slide shows the dorsal and the ventral view of the Pediculus humanus capitis. In this slide, you can see the claw-like structures at the end of the legs or at the appendages of the Pediculus humanus capitis, which facilitates the lice on holding on to the hair shaft. This is an electron micrograph photo of the claws of the Pediculus humanus holding onto the hair shaft. In this slide, you see the eggs that are glued onto the hair shaft. Figure A shows the egg with the nymph in it, and figure B shows an empty shell of the egg whereby the nymph has already left the egg. In this slide, you see a person infested with head lice. This is the hair, and the little dots that you see over here are the eggs that are glued onto the hair shaft. Some of these eggs are located far away from the scalp, distant to the scalp, and some eggs are near the scalp. The ones that are far away from the scalp would be non-viable eggs, and the ones closest to the scalp would be the viable eggs. Though complications are not common in the head lice infestation, however, two things could happen. The first being the matted scalp or the plica polonica, and the second would be the purulent discharge due to secondary bacterial infection. The secondary bacterial infection is a result of intense scratching leading to a lesion onto the scalp, which renders the person at risk of secondary bacterial infection. Now, plica polonica is a rare condition whereby the hair shaft becomes intertwined or tangled up, and it is irreversibly tangled and it is all matted up. Please go through this link for you to read up a little bit more about plica polonica. These are two pictures of plica polonica. What you see is over here is a mass of hair all tangled up and matted. What you see over here is plica polonica 2, and there are evidence of secondary bacterial infection at the scalp. In the next few slides, we'll be discussing about body lice. This is the general life cycle of Pediculus corporis, which is the body lice. The general life cycle is very much the same when compared to the head lice. The major difference is the location of the egg. Now, the egg for the body lice can be found on the fibers of the clothing that the person is wearing. The three stages of the nymph development and the adult are found at the body of the person, and these stages of development, the ectoparasite feeds on human blood. You can read through the life cycle of the body lice, as this is taken from the CDC website. As I mentioned earlier, the body lice is a vector for louse-bound disease. Now, there are two types of bacteria that are closely regarded with body lice. The first type of bacteria is the Rickettsia prowazekii, which cause the louse-bound typhus, and the second type of bacteria is the Borrelia recurrentis, which causes louse-bound relapsing fever. Perhaps these two types of bacteria have been introduced to you in your microbiology lecture. This is a picture of the Pediculus humanus corporis, the body lice. For the purpose of your exam, I will be using this diagram to represent the pediculus humanis, whether it is the body lice or the head lice, the most important thing is for you again to differentiate whether it's a pediculus humanis or whether it's Thyrus pubis. In this diagram, you'll see the skin changes as a result of prolonged exposure of the body lice infestation. This is severe dermatitis called the vagabond disease. Vagabond, as I said, is the word which means homeless community. The changes you see over here is the skin has become thickened, hyperpigmentation takes place, and you would also see the rashes where the areas have been bitten by the lice. The normal distribution of these rashes would be at the midsection of the body, where it can be found at the waistband or the tight cloth area where the eggs are laid and the nymphs have been released. In this diagram, what you see is the infestation of body lice resulting in severe dermatitis called the vagabond disease. This looks like an arm perhaps, and the folded fabric that was covering the arm. Here what you see is areas of hyperpigmentation and hypopigmentation due to prolonged exposure to the body lice. The skin is also thickened. Over on this part, which is the fabric or the clothing that was covering the clothes, you can see numerous adult body lice on this fabric. There might be eggs that are not seen or are not captured on this photograph. In the next few slides, we'll be discussing about the pubic lice. It is very important for you to differentiate not only the location of the pubic lice, but also the morphology of the pubic lice, which is significantly different compared to the morphology of the body lice and the head lice. The Thyrus pubis is also called the crab lice. The reason why it's called a crab lice is because the body of the Thyrus pubis is squarish in that it does look like the body of a crab. Coincidentally too, its legs also has claw-like ends which make it look even more like a crab. Now the purpose of these claws again is to hold on to the hair shaft of the pubic hair. This slide shows the pubic lice with their claw-like appendages clinging on to the hair shaft of the pubic hair. Generally, the infestation of the crab lice or the pubic lice is found at the pubic hair. Occasionally, it can be found at the eyelashes or the eyebrow because of adventurous sexual practices. Transmission of the crab lice or the pubic lice is due to intimate physical contact. Like all the lice, the bite of the pubic lice will result in itching at the site of infestation. Severe itching and severe scratching again can lead to secondary bacterial infection. In this slide, you can see pubic lice at the eyelashes. This is the eyelash, and these are pubic lice that you see on the eyelash. These are eggs that are found on the eyelashes. So though this is not a common presentation of a pubic lice, however, this scenario can happen due to adventurous sexual practices. The life cycle of the pubic lice is very similar to that of the head lice or the body lice. It will go through the eggs. Eggs will hatch to become nymph, and the nymph would become an adult. The location is of course at the pubic area, and transmission is via close contact. Please read through the life cycle of the pubic lice, as this has been taken from a website. In this slide, you'll see the diagram of the pubic lice. For the purpose of your exam, I will be giving you the picture in figure B to represent the pubic lice. From figure B, you need to be able to differentiate the morphology between the pubic lice and the head lice or body lice. The main difference between the body lice, head lice, and the pubic lice is the shape of the body of the pubic lice, which is a little bit squarish. For the infestation of pediculosis and theriasis, both of these can be treated with an over-the-counter preparation. There are various types of treatment shampoo that can be used on various parts of the body. Some of these shampoos are used just once, and some of them may need to be used daily for about a week. In the event of pediculosis, you might want to treat, or it is best to treat all close contacts, and as well as to wash all the fomites. For theriasis, all the sexual contacts that the index case comes in contact with needs to be treated too. For the head lice, there is a special fine-tooth comb that can be used to remove the eggs from the hair shaft. So this marks the end of part 1. So those were the 3 lice that you need to know and you need to be aware of because of their medical importance. See you in part 2 of the Ectoparasites lecture series.